brain freeze. Hello everyone and welcome back to Mariana Mas Books. My name is Mariana and today I am here with my December wrap-up. The first book I finished was The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffman, which is a children's classic that was it was what prompted the ballet and everything. It's based on this story. I listened to it in audiobook, and my favorite part about this book was the audiobook format because they use music from the ballet throughout the story, and so it was very cozy and very lovely. It was the first book I read in December. So when December started, the first Christmassy book I wanted to read, I wanted it to be very Christmassy. And so I decided to start listening to that one. And as soon as it started and the ballet music came in, I was like, this is just what I wanted because it's super Christmassy for me, super cozy. I love the music of the Nutcracker. And that was my favorite part. The story in itself was okay. I didn't love it. It's not my favorite children's story I've read ever. What most fascinated me was thinking about adapting the story, like how it was adapted into the ballet, because it is very different in many ways. In others it's not, but in many ways it is, and I'm always very interested in the adaptation process, just in general. Whenever I see a movie or a show or a ballet that's inspired in a piece of literature, I'm always super interested about how they went about doing it, how they make decisions. And honestly, I'm just like blown away by Tchaikovsky's creativity. That was my favorite part about it, just thinking about how it was adapted and listening to the music. The next book I finished was a romance, a contemporary romance. My original plan was to read a ton of Christmas romances, but if you saw my end year freak out tag video, you know that I've been struggling with romance this year, sadly. And so I loved the first romance that I read, which is the one I'm going to talk about in a second. But then I had problems finding one I liked, and so I was kind of like over with romance, and I didn't read as many romances as I thought I was going to. But the first one, which was very successful, was Lovelight Farms by the person that you see in the cover. Honestly, it was excellent. I gave it 5 stars. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. This book is a story about the owner of a Christmas tree farm, which can it get more Christmassy than that? So the setting is gorgeous because it's a small town, Christmas tree farm, very Hallmark movie. I've never seen a Hallmark movie in my life, but I know how they're like. And so it's a small town and she's the owner of a Christmas tree farm. And she, for some reason that actually kind of makes sense, she needs a fake boyfriend. And so she asks her best friend, who is not the first person she asks, and that's a very funny part at the beginning of the book, but she asks her best friend Luca to be her fake boyfriend. It's a fake dating trope. They fake date and eventually they end up together. It's a romance, you know where it's going. But to talk about the characters, the thing and the writing style and everything, the thing I most liked about this book is how normal it feels. But it actually feels normal, because this is one thing that annoys me about contemporary romance especially, is when the writing is trying so hard to be like a regular conversation. Like, this is not over flowery, this is not literary, this is like real life. And you're reading it and you're thinking, nobody speaks like this. This doesn't feel real whatsoever, and it feels like you're trying to make it feel real. And I hate that. I much prefer romances that are aware that they are not realistic. That self-awareness is important in romance, but this one is very genuinely normal. I don't like using the word normal, but you know what I mean. It's very quotidian, it's very everyday feeling, it's very real people. I'm going to give you just one example. This isn't a spoiler for the plot, it's just a moment that happens. Something about the nature of the relationship between the two main characters, Luca and, for the life of me, I can't remember her name, but they have been friends for years. I think it's like over a decade or something like that. They really know each other, they have been in each other's lives, and they know everything about each other, and they've been there through the hard times, you know, best friends. And there's this part where she's talking to him, and Luca is asking her, why do you need a fake boyfriend if you're dating so and so? And she looks him and she's like, I broke up with him 2 years ago. Something like that, like a year ago, like a long time ago. And he's like, what? How did I not know this? And I laughed so much, because it is 100% believable that your guy friend that has known you for a decade, that knows you so well, had no idea that you broke up with your boyfriend 2 years ago. That's so realistic. Men don't remember things because they don't pay attention. And if you don't agree with me, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. So that made me laugh so much because I was like, this is so believable. So a lot of things like that happen where tiny details that make you feel this is a real person. He doesn't feel like an over-the-top romance hero. Of course, he's good looking and like, because you have to have like the hero that is dreamy, but he's very just like a regular guy, except for the super good looks. And I really love that. So that is Lovelight Farms by this person. Just to give you a point of reference, I have seen people who don't usually read romance give this a 5 stars or 4 stars or 4.5 stars. Love this book. So if that tells you anything. Next book I finished, and this is the book I want to rant about. Incoming. Comfort and Joy by Kristin Hanna. Where do I begin with this one? So I'm going to begin with the very vaguest synopsis, so then I can go in detail because I'm going to spoil. I cannot talk about this book without spoiling. I cannot tell you why I hate it without spoil. I won't even say I hated it, but I hate myself for not hating it. But I can't tell you why without spoiling. So I'm going to start with the non-spoilers, and then I'm going to go with the spoilers. Again, I'm going to let you know, and it will be time-stamped. This book is what would be considered women's fiction, whatever that means. You know what that means. It's not a romance, but there is a romance in the way. Not in the way, I mean in the plot. The book starts with the protagonist, whose name I also don't remember, Joy. The name of the character in Kristin Hanna's book is Joy. I remember now because it's titled Comfort and Joy and her name is Joy. Why did I forget? Anyway, she has recently gotten divorced because, and see, this is the thing with Kristin Hanna. I've never in my life wanted to read a Kristin Hanna book because they sound like tragedy after tragedy, melodrama after melodrama. But why did I pick this book up? Because I thought, you know, if there is time for a family melodrama, corny telenovela book, it's Christmas. And I wasn't feeling like a romance, but I wanted a romance adjacent book. And I saw that one and I thought, yeah, I could read a family telenovela corny book. And so that's what this book is. And so she recently got divorced because she comes home one day. This is the beginning of the book, not spoiler. She comes home one day and her husband is sleeping with her sister. Which first telenovela plot, okay? So she catches them and divorced, right? And then, and again, this is at the beginning of the book, the sister turns out that she is marrying the guy because she got pregnant. Again, telenovela, corny, yeah, this is what this book is. So she is like, I need to escape. I need, like, when the sister comes pregnant and with a wedding invitation, she's like, I need to escape this. I can't deal with this anymore. So she gets on a plane and she's like, I'm traveling, and you can pick up from there. I don't need to tell you what type of book it is. And that's where the non-spoiler part is going to end, because there's no way I can talk about this book without spoiling. So spoilers starting. You have been warned. If you don't want to hear spoilers, I will timestamp you to the next book. So she gets on a plane and the plane crashes, which I wasn't expecting. Okay? I wasn't expecting. She was like taking pictures, like, oh yes, living my best life, I'm going to go to a small town. And then all of a sudden, turbulence, what's happening, oh my god, and the plane falls down and crashes. What? I was like, what is this? Luckily I am in a good enough mental state because plane crashes freak me out. This should be a trigger warning. Anyway, so the plane crashes. I had been mildly spoiled for this book before I started reading it, so I was expecting something. And as I am in the spoiler section, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what the booktuber told me that spoiled the book for me. And she said that there is a character that you think is a ghost, but that it's not revealed till the end that it's a ghost. And she's like, she's not warning about spoilers because it's like, oh, I'm not saying who he is. But that's a huge spoiler because now when you're reading the book, you're looking for the ghost character. And so when the plane crashes, I was like, she's going to be the ghost. Okay. And so she stands up. She was in a plane crash. Okay? Plane crash. She stands up and she's like, oh no, I'm too sad. I don't want the police and firemen to find me. So I'm going to escape the scene of the accident. So she walks until she finds a town. And she's like, oh wow, okay, I could walk. There's no mention of blood, nothing. Like, she's just walking to the town. So she walks to the town, she arrives to an inn, and she's like, oh, there's no one here. She calls out, no one hears her. I promise I won't tell you everything, every detail. I just need to tell you this beginning so you understand. So she finds a kid who is the son of the innkeeper, who is a single guy that gives you the information you need to know as to what the romance is going to be. The kid is like, oh yeah, go ahead, I'll check you in. I know how to check people in. The rest of the book, or the middle part of the book happens in the inn that is empty because it's an inn that is the mom of the kid recently died, again telenovela, and so they are going to sell the inn, and that's why no one is there, because they are no longer taking guests. At no point does she think this is weird, okay? And this was my problem with the book. I was like, okay, I know she's a ghost, so I can tell these things, and maybe you could have gotten away with 1 or 2 chapters where she hasn't realized that she's a ghost, because oh, I arrived at the middle of the night, no one was there, oh, the kid saw me, so I know I'm a ghost because the kid can see me, and then maybe the next morning, oh, I took my camera and I walked through town and I didn't talk to anyone because I don't know anyone, so I don't know I'm a ghost. You can get away with that 1 or 2 chapters. The book goes on and on and on with her being ignored by people, chapters on end, where she directly asks questions to the guy who completely ignores her, who doesn't even look at her. She even writes like, oh, he saw right through me, and she's like, oh wow, he's so grumpy, he doesn't look at me. And at no point does she start thinking this is weird. I mean, it was weird from the beginning, where it's like, oh wow, like I fell down from a plane crash and there was no blood in my clothes. Wow, like that would be weird. But okay, let's give it the benefit of the doubt that it's going to keep going. It went too long. By this point, I was hate reading it. Like, what? But at the same time, I couldn't stop because I wanted to know how it was going to be resolved, which is why I hate myself for not hating it, because it's a terrible book, but I just kept reading because I was like, I need to know how this is going to be resolved because this is stupid. And then the final part of the book, because I don't remember what happened that made me think she's not dead, but she's a ghost. So so there was a moment where I realized, oh, okay, I see what happened. She's not dead. She's in the hospital in a coma, but her ghostly spirit is in this town with these people, and when she wakes up, she's going to find them and stay with the innkeeper happily ever after with her adopted son. Of course, that's what happened. That's what this book is. If you want a good hate read, I would recommend it for next December. And you're probably going to be DNF'd and judge me for not DNFing it before. So after this one, I want to talk about a middle grade book that I'm also going to spoil, but I will also add timestamps before I spoil it. The middle grade book that I read was Greenglass House by an author whose name I also can't remember. And this I also listened in audiobook, and the narrator was excellent. I love the narration. He was excellent. He's one of those narrators who doesn't do voices per se. He just does 1 or 2 voices for some characters, but he does the intonation and the inflection and the way of speaking very differently for each character, and I really like those types of narrators. So Greenglass House is about an inn, also an inn, and this is an inn for smugglers. It's the Christmas break, and Milo, who is the son of the innkeepers, he wants to spend Christmas with his family, and usually the inn is empty at the time, but suddenly guests start arriving, and there's something mysterious about the guests, and he has a friend that belongs to some of the people that are in the inn, and she and Milo start investigating what's going on with the people in the inn. It's a mystery, which I've come to learn about myself, that I don't like mysteries. Mysteries bore me. So there was a part of this book in the middle, because it's a long book and it dragged for me, but because I don't like mysteries, not because it's bad, because it's actually a great book. I think I gave it 4 stars and I would recommend it. But because I don't like mysteries, there was a middle part where I was like a bit bored. That's what happens to me with mysteries. I'm like, I could not care less about solving the mystery. But the ending comes around in a great way. And a big part of the story is that Milo is adopted, and so I really liked how that became a part of the story, and like how it plays a part in Milo's character and in the story, in the mystery and in the elements of the mystery. One thing I will tell you that is not a spoiler is that Milo and his friend, why am I forgetting all of the characters' names? I don't remember her name, but Milo and his friend, they started a campaign, like a D&D type campaign, to play out the mystery, to solve the mystery. So you have chapters where they are developing their characters and developing the campaign, and that was really nerdy and delightful. I am going into spoilers now because I want to talk about something that I need spoilers for. So if you don't want this book spoiled, again, timestamp to the next book, which will not be spoiled. So fair warning, spoilers incoming. So I needed to talk about this book because I needed to, with spoilers, because I need to talk about it in conversation with the previous book, Comfort and Joy by Kristin, because there is a similar type plot going on that I personally think was really well executed in the middle grade, and it wasn't well executed in the Kristin book, and that is the ghost aspect. So Milo's friend, again, I'm speaking with spoilers here, and I don't know, maybe you've already heard this spoiler, maybe it's a huge part of the plot and I just didn't know it, and maybe if someone reads more plots like this, would read it and be like, Mariana, it was clear from the beginning. But it was a surprise to me. Milo's friend is a ghost. Here's the thing, Milo and her friend and his friend are playing a campaign, a D&D campaign, and part of the character of his friend is that she is invisible to everyone except him, and she has this she finds this code that she calls her invisibility code, and she's always wearing it. They are always doing their thing because they're kids, they're playing around in an inn, so the adults are doing stuff and they are like in their mission, and the parents are not absent. Milo goes to his parents a lot, but because the friend is supposed to be the daughter of one of the characters, that it is well explained. It is well explained, and it makes sense how Milo assumes she's the daughter. But because she's supposed to be the daughter, it makes sense that she's not with Milo when Milo has moments with his parents. But when they're together playing their campaign, they're two kids playing, so it's not weird that no adults are around. So you'll have moments like in Comfort and Joy where the character is speaking to people who are ignoring them. There are no moments like that because Milo and his friend are together all the time. But by the end, when there were some comments by Milo's dad that made me think, whoa, what's going on? Because it's a middle grade, I assumed that it was going to turn out to be that the cloak that she wears is actually an invisibility cloak and that her character is actually invisible to other people. That it was going to be like that type of magic, and it does end up being magic or supernatural, you know, because she ends up being a ghost, but it was a different supernatural element. I did not see it coming. Maybe I'm dumb and someone else would have been like, Mariana, but I didn't see it coming. And so, because I read it right after Comfort and Joy, I was like, wow, okay, I love this because this was done in such a good way versus the very poor way that it was done in Comfort and Joy. So yes, so that is Greenglass House by the person that you see in the cover. Finally, the final book that I read was Folklorn by the person you see in the cover. I'm sorry that I haven't been prepared for the past couple of videos, but I always put the cover up and I always write the information below, so you have authors and everything down below. But I read Folklorn, which is a literary fiction with a mildly speculative element, which is why I was interested in the book in the first place. As you know, I don't read literary fiction. I am weirdly craving literary fiction at the moment. So, like not all the time. I don't want it to be all I read in 2023, and I'm not even going to make it the majority of what I read, but I do want to read some more in 2023. Who knows, maybe I'll come back to normal and realize, wait, I don't like literary fiction, but at the moment I am craving. Wait, I did try to read another book in the middle. That is what prompted me to read this one, and it is I attempted to read 3 books before this one. See, I'm telling you, I forgot, but I DNF'd all 3. So I'm just going to be quick about the books I DNF'd and why they led me towards literary fiction. So firstly, A Bear Home for Christmas. This is a shifter romance, a bear shifter romance. I love shifter romances. They are my favorite thing in the world, and I love bear shifters. And there are so few bear shifter books, and the ones I've only read one that's good. The others have not been good, but I love the concept of a bear shifter, and I'm like, why can't there be good bear shifter books out there? If you know one, please recommend it. Anyway, so I started reading. I thought, oh, A Bear Home for Christmas, kitschy cover, like yes, no. I didn't have that. I think like before finishing the first chapter, so that didn't work. Then I started a Merry Little Meet Cute by Sierra Simone and someone else, name in the cover. And I talked a bit about this in my mid-year freakout tag, but this has the thing that I tell you annoys me in contemporary romance, where it's like we are super cool authors who write like real conversations and real down to earth messy characters that are just caricatures. At the moment I can't stand that. It's always annoyed me, but at the moment it's really annoying me. After that one, I attempted to read a book that I actually bought physically, and I'm going to show it to you because I had read many samples of Christmas romances in November to select which one I wanted to buy physical. I was going on holiday with my family, and I bought it specifically to read on holiday, and I wanted like a paper Christmassy book, and it was A Wedding in December by Sarah Morgan, which has glitter and everything. Like, it's just a lovely copy. When I received it, I was so excited. Sadly, by the point where we went on holiday and I started reading it, I was already annoyed with contemporary romance. I had just DNF'd a Merry Little Meet Cute. And so I started reading it, and turns out that the first point of view that I was reading, that I thought was going somewhere, was in fact going somewhere else. And I wasn't feeling it. And after so many like fluffy, cheesy, corny contemporary romances that I DNF'd, I was feeling like a depressing literary fiction. And I had this Folklorn in mind. It's about a PhD physicist. She's a practical physicist, and she is on site in the South Pole. And so that sounded interesting because I like books with academic settings, and it sounded cold and you know, appropriate for December. And the synopsis said that she starts seeing her imaginary friend from childhood. Her imaginary friend from childhood comes back, and so that mild speculative element was what caught my attention. Goodreads classifies this as, you know how it has several tags, and one of them is literary fiction, but one of them is fantasy. It's not a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. Like, the imaginary friend pops up in situations where it's just like a regular contemporary zero fantasy book. She just happens to see her imaginary friend. It's not a fantasy. The main character is Korean American. Well, she's American, but her parents are Korean immigrants in America, and she lives in Sweden. Well, she was doing her investigation in South Pole, but then she goes back to Sweden. So we have a lot of Swedish characters. I will direct you to my media freakout tag because I talk about my newest fictional crush who comes from this book, who is a Korean Swedish literature poetry PhD with an Old Norse doctorate. I was obsessed with him. And it made me want to read another literary fiction book that doesn't have a romantic plot, because now I don't know if I would have finished this book if it weren't for my crush on him and the romantic subplot. But the important part about the book is not the romance. It's a book about heritage and about family. She explores her Korean heritage through folk tales that her mom wrote to her. And this character, my crush, ends up being important because he's an expert in literature and folk stories from Korea. So he helps her to like study these folk tales from Korea, to come to terms with family things that are going on, and like coming to terms with herself and her identity and her family identity and all of those topics that literary fiction writers love that I usually run away from, but I was feeling like it in this month. I am obsessed with this book mainly because I'm obsessed with Oscar. And the funny thing is that I'm super sad that this wasn't a romance, even though I was running away from romance, because I loved him so much that I was like, I need a contemporary romance written where these two are the main characters. And I need Ali Hazelwood specifically to write it. So I need Ali Hazelwood to write a book about these two. Same characters, same setting, just make it a romance instead of a literary fiction. Yes, please and thank you. As literary fiction goes, I don't think this is like an excellent book. I wouldn't say it's an indispensable read. I logged this one into Goodreads and I think I gave it 3 stars, maybe 3.5, something like that. So it's not something I would be like, oh, I super recommend, go out of your way to read it. But it was, again, I was going to say it was good enough that I wanted to finish it, but I honestly don't know if I finished it because of the story or because of Oscar. I really want to read a literary fiction book without a romance to see if I can finish a literary fiction book that doesn't have a romance. Says the person who is struggling with romance at the moment. Anyway, that's it for my December wrap up. I will see you when I see you with another bookish video, probably a tag after this. Yeah, I will see you in a bookish video soon-ish. And in the meantime, I wish you happy reading.